Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Kråkan, and welcome to Classy Movie Rambles, where I talk about old movies that I found in my closet while cleaning. This week's movie is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and it's a comedy from 1994, and it's about 1 hour and 22 minutes long. And the movie starts with the main character of Ace, played by Jim Carrey, delivering a package to a dog kidnapper. So this physical comedy, by the way, he makes and breaks the package. He tosses it around and kind of kicks it around, and he delivers to the kidnapper's door, and he makes him sign a paper, and he leaves the package there, and he grabs the dog inside of his jacket and returns to his car in the parking lot. And soon enough, the kidnapper realized that, well, he's taking my dog, or my stolen dog. So he goes after Ace, and he beats up his car with a baseball bat, crashes the windows and everything, and Ace is trying to start his car, and it's a really slow startup, but he gets the car going, and the kidnapper hangs on the back of the car, and the dog bites the kidnapper's hand, and Ace also bites the hand, so he falls off. And then Ace delivers the dog to the rightful owner, and he gets a reward, and it's a funny pun on sex. He's basically hanging on for dear life. And then cutting to the kidnapping of another animal. I think it was the Miami Dolphins mascot, Snowflake. It's like a Super Bowl kind of mascot, I guess. And later cutting to Ace Ventura getting home, and he has this like bag of food, and he goes past his landlord's window, and this is a funny scene when he has like a palm tree, part of like a leaf, and he kind of goes past. And he tries to open the door to his flat, but the landlord is kind of behind him. And the landlord basically wants rent from him because he's due. And he also been having complaints from the other neighbors about animals scratching and noises. So this is one of those funny scenes because Jim Carrey is hilarious in my opinion. One of the better comedians of the 90s. So he opens up the door, and he just tells his landlord to basically snoop around, and he can't find any animals whatsoever. And as soon as the landlord kind of closes the door, all the animals kind of arrive, which I thought was super funny. Everything from like penguins to parakeets or mice and everything. It's like, where have all these animals kind of come from? I don't know. So and then cutting to the owner of the Dolphin, the team, the Miami Dolphins, I guess. And then because their team mascot has been stolen, they need to find it basically. So there's two guys. I think he's called Roger Predactor or something, and this other girl, and they're tasked with finding Snowflake. So by a small chance, they actually talk to one of the secretaries, and she recommends Ace Ventura because he's a pet detective and he's really good. So cutting to Ace Ventura on a roof trying to catch an albino pigeon, which is worth a whole lot of money to its owner for some reason, and he basically tries to catch it, and he falls off the roof into a dumpster, and then his pager calls, and he has to be on the case basically. So he goes to the Miami Dolphins kind of where they train, I guess, the stadium, and he gets introduced to Roddy Predactor and the girl, and he goes into the fish tank to look for some evidence. I think he also asked like, have the police already checked everything, and they have. So he goes into the tank, and he does this funny scene where he takes off his glasses, and he uses them like a microphone, and he basically does like a Patrick Stewart, or I don't know, maybe it's like Kirk from the Kirk, the first captain. He does the Stardate kind of thing, and he kind of, there's a pun because there's like this echo in the fish tank because it's drained of water, and he does the Stardates and logs, and he even does Scotty and other characters, and he's just silly because he's over the top and everything. Then he goes into the filter, and he looks through the filter, and he finds a little, like a ruby, or a little like gemstone, which will be important in some bit later on in the story. So meanwhile, this is happening, the press is arriving, and they're basically trying to find out what's happening to Snowflake, but they get bussed off, like laid off or whatever. And then Ace goes to the police station to get some more information on the case, because he's just a pet detective, and the police have real evidence. So he goes in to talk to a guy, which is, I don't know what his name is, but he's really, I have seen him in some other movies too, I don't really know, but this black guy, I thought he has like the weirdest taste in shirts, but this is like the 90s, so it's like, okay. So Ace kind of wants information, but he doesn't get anything, and he literally talks out his ass. He uses his butt cheek as a mouth, and it's like this really bizarre scene, and he gets the information he needs, and then the boss steps in, this woman called Ihorn, and she's not all what she seems in the beginning of the movie, but later on you will kind of get what I'm hinting at. And she basically tells him to stay off the case, so he didn't get much more information about the gemstone and whatnot. So Ace goes to another lead. So he goes into this underground kind of rave place, I don't know, it's all full of graffiti and stuff. And there's this band called Cannibal Corpse actually playing a song. I don't know which song, but whatever. And true fact, actually Cannibal Corpse is one of Jim Carrey's favorite bands in real life. So he goes down there to the concert to look for a guy with the information, basically. So Ace Ventura gets the information that he needs from this contact, and he goes to a fancy party because he's following up on a lead, and he takes the girl with him on this one. And there's this funny scene, there's this fancy party, and he sneaks out, and he goes into a fish tank, and he thinks that Snowflakes is in one of these tanks, but it's really just a big white shark. And he gets attacked, and he returns to the party all soaked and wet, and there's this funny scene when he steps out of the bathroom, and it's all wet and everything. He says like, "Do not go in there." Woo! And it kind of like splashes out of water out of his pocket, and I thought it was kind of stupidly funny. Jim Carrey has this like physical comedy that's like in your face all the time. It's over the top, but it's funny to look at. And I grew up with these movies, so I kind of like this kind of style. So Ace finds out that somehow this jewel is part of the one of the Super Bowl rings, and one of the guests at the party, or the owner of the party, or the one who was arranging it, is one of the prime suspects. But he finds out that if he finds the Super Bowl as missing this little gemstone, he will find a perpetrator. So he goes through a list, and but before he does that, Roger Podacter, the guy who was gonna help the girl, he was with the girl in the beginning, he is dead. So he goes to the crime scene, and there's this he's fallen off a ledge, and the Ace kind of debunks the case, and the police are just making fun of him. But there's this old lady that lives next door, and she says she heard a scream, and then she went into the room, and Roger Podacter has fallen off the ledge. So Ace proved the point that Roger Podacter was murdered, and he does this with a funny scene. He goes out to the balcony, and he proves that the glass window is bulletproof. So there's this funny scene when he grabs the handle and goes like opera singing voice forward and backward, and it kind of mutes every time he closes the door. So there's no way that Roger Podacter could have closed the door behind him and die and fall off the ledge. So it wasn't suicide, he was murdered. But anyway, he's thrown off the case, and he follows up on the ring thing, and there's this funny montage when he kind of assaults and does all these weird things to find out if former football players from the Miami Dolphins actually are the perpetrators. So some way or another, he has to take a look at the rings, and it's kind of this funny scene where he fails and do all kinds of weird stuff. But he eventually follows up. He finds a team photo and he realized that one of the guy he hasn't checked yet because there was something wrong with the update of the season or whatever. So he finds out that Ray Finkel is the new lead, and this kind of guy that really just stepped into, basically just disappeared from the team. So that's the thing he needs to follow up. But the girl wants to follow along on this case, but he kind of says no. And at this part, they're kind of bonded together, and there's this really awkward and weird sex scene, but it's like the theme from The Lion King when the lion sleeps tonight, which is weird, but anyway, excuse me. And then he follows up on the lead on Ray Finkel. So he drives out to the middle of nowhere, and he visits Ray Finkel's parents, and they live in this shack, and it's full of graffiti of hate speech against Ray Finkel. And we find out that the reason why people hate Ray Finkel's because he made the Miami Dolphins lose at the final, I believe, because he made a really bad kick, and everybody hate him for it. Like, they wanted him dead because he lost the final of the Super Bowl. And it's a big thing for Americans, I know for a fact, because they watch it like fanatically, and it's a thing. Whatever. And then the whole thing is that Ray Finkel was put into this insane asylum, and he blames Dan Marino for everything. And at the same time, Dan Marino, a former Dolphin player, gets kidnapped in the middle of a shoot, and there's this funny scene where Ace chases after him in his car, and he catches a bullet with his teeth, and the car flips, and then he continues to drive. So a bit later, Ace goes to talk to the police force and tell him his version of the story. What do you think happened? And then Ace goes to Finkel's mental ward undercover as a disturbing individual, a football fanatic with the other girl from earlier, and he sneaks off and he breaks into Ray Finkel's personal stash, and he finds out that there's something wrong with the police chief, and she's not what she seems to be. And even later, he figures out that Einhorn is actually Finkel. So there's been this whole time he thought that Einhorn was a woman, but it is Ray Finkel, so it's a man. So there's an old weird scene where Einhorn kind of kisses him, and he realized that he's actually been kissing a man, and he goes into brushing his teeth and taking a plunger to his face and burning his clothes and crying in the shower, which is literally what he does. And I thought it was this tragical thing in this the songs and music and everything, but it's just laughable because he's like, oh no, what have I done? It's funny seeing. And then what he decides to do is he kind of follows her, shadows Einhorn, the police chief, Finkel, and Finkel drives down to the docks, and Dan Marino is there, and Snowflake is also there, and he takes out two goons, and he gets into a fist fight with Einhorn, and then she puts a gun to his face, and then they call in the cops. And then Ace starts a fist fight or whatever, and the cops arrive, and there's a showdown. And basically what happens is that he tried to plead his case, and he tried to explain that the police chief is not actually who she seems to be. It's actually Ray Finkel in disguise. And so he kind of does this weird kind of thing. He kind of pulls off his clothes, but there's plastic surgery being done. But Dan Marino kind of gives him a hint that he's, tucking it in, the balls and everything. So it's this weird scene, and, he actually wins the case, and everything is all dandy and whatnot. And then at the end of the movie, this is a more funnier scene, when he gets his reward and everything. He goes to he's invited to one of the Dolphins kind of games, and he is just there, and he sees this albino pigeon that he's been chasing out from the whole movie, and it's on the water stand. So he goes up to the water stand, and the other team's mascot he's gonna grab some water, and it kind of just pushes the pigeon away, and Ace kind of gets angry at him, and they get into a fist fight, and they kind of introduce him, Ace Ventura, as this animal lover and everything, but he's basically punching a bird as a mascot, and the camera kind of zooms in on his face, and he just makes this weird smile, which I thought was funny. And that's the end of the movie. So what do I think about this movie? I think it's hilarious. It has a little bit of dated humor, and but Jim Carrey is also in his prime here. He's over the top, and he's funny, and he's doing all this physical comedy. Imagine it like Charlie Chaplin or something, all physical, all there, and he does all these kind of weird and stupid things, and he makes fun out of people, and he's quick and wit. And I mean, even if, as a kid I saw this movie, and I didn't know a lot of English, right? And you can understand a physical comedy, and you don't really have to know a lot of language when you can actually watch the body language of the character. You just see him making funny faces and doing stupid shit, and it's like, well, I can understand that side of humor. So when I rewatched it again for this review kind of thing, the rambles, I realized that I've forgotten a lot of the lines, and I understand a bit more of the like grown-up jokes and humor. So I don't think that this is like on, but if you get a chance to see it, it's a must because it's stupidly funny. I can definitely recommend this one. So anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.